Hello horror hounds. Now we all watch lots of different types of horror movies for lots of different types of reasons. Sometimes you're in the mood for an 80s practical effects extravaganza, blood and guts for the sheer craftsmanship of the kills. Sometimes you'll watch movies because it's got particular actors in it, or movies from a certain director. Sometimes you just want to be taken on that roller coaster. Sometimes you'll laugh along with them. Some horror movies act as a comfort blanket. It's your happy place. Strange as that will sound to people who don't get horror movies are our happy place. One of the things I haven't regularly touched on, because it doesn't regularly happen to people who are really into horror movies, are the movies that actually scare us, do what they say they're supposed to do. And it was a recent conversation down in the comments section with a regular visitor to my horror house, Campbell Green, hello Campbell, who sort of inspired me to do an occasional series where I just chat about the movies that have actually scared me, that rare beast, that diamond in the rough, the horror movie that has scared a dyed-in-the-wool horror fan. Some of these movies won't continue to scare me. Some of them will be from early childhood, but they'll be the ones that really stand out, the ones that got the job done. And there was only one movie that I could start a series like this off with. It's Ring. Ring, or as it's sometimes called now, Ringu, because of its American cousin, came out probably about 17, 18 years ago. It was right at the crest of the J horror wave. In the intervening years, I've read a lot of comments and seen a lot of people say that they saw The Ring first, the American Ring, and that scared them witless, and that's great. Finding a horror film that actually scares the poop out of you is a great thing. But as a result, they went back and watched the original and didn't like it so much, didn't find it as scary. I can only talk from my experience of getting into the world of Sadako Yamamura through hearing whispers about this film, and as you'll be able to tell, I became then mildly obsessed with this, I think, amazing creation of Koji Suzuki's. The books, Birthday, Spiral, Loop, the comics as well, Ring 2, The Ring 1, Spiral, Birthday, The Ring 0. The Venn diagram of the Ring world is very, very complicated, because after Ringu there's the Korean adaptation, The Ring Virus, there's the official sequel Spiral, which is the adaptation of the second novel, which didn't do so well, so they had a second stab at a sequel, Ring 2, then a very strange prequel, Ring 0, based on Birthday, the collection of short stories. The Japanese franchise has lost its way with the likes of Sadako 3D and Sadako 3D 2 and Kayako vs Sadako that I haven't yet seen, and obviously the Western arm of it, The Ring, very successful remake, critically and commercially, that went off the rails much quicker than the Japanese one with The Ring 2, and then Rings. The experience of getting this film and watching it is probably unique in my horror movie watching life. Have you seen this really scary Japanese film? It's about a videotape, and if you see it, you die a week later. It reached a critical mass where I decided that I had to watch Ring when I was sitting in a pub at a table waiting for my friend to turn up, and I could overhear a group at the table next to me, and one of them was telling the others about this fucked up movie that they'd seen, which had scared the crap out of them. And as they were explaining it, I went, that's that Ring. They're talking about the Ring movie. The urban legend of the movie sort of spread out in waves, exactly like the urban legend of the cursed tape in the movie. It was such that I think my partner at the time was working that day. It must have been a Saturday or something, or a day that I had off. And I texted her to tell her I bought Ring. And now this is going to sound ridiculous. she'd heard the rumours as well and was parked outside and wouldn't come up into the house. She texted me and said, "Is it in the house?" Because through the system of Chinese whispers, she'd thought that if you watch this movie, that this movie was cursed. And I had to have a text conversation with her and say, "Dude, no, the film is about a cursed tape. This tape isn't cursed." What doesn't help is that when you put this DVD in, the very first menu thing that pops up, you have to consent to watch the film. Now, Gore Verbinski's remake is very accomplished. It's very polished. It's very creepy. It is a little slick for my liking. It's a little more dots are joined up. The videotape in this does look like an art installation project, or it does look like a couple of film students got together and created their idea of what a cursed videotape would look like. The videotape in Ring is just an avant-garde, fucked up collage of images that the people have to really piece together to go through. This is so much more lo-fi. It's so much more vibey. It really benefits from the relationship the Japanese culture has with ancestors, spirits and ghosts that just isn't present in the Western world. The vibe of this, the slow descent, each time a day comes up, that slowly descending note, it's all very nihilistic and rain-swept and dour, but shot through it is this investigation, this spark of hope that you might be able to save your life if you can piece the mystery together. And what unfolds is the details of the life of Sadako Yamamura and the expectation through tradition, really. We're no stranger in the West to the idea of you find the unsanctified resting place of this victim and you give them a proper burial and their spirit will be at peace and the curse will be lifted. We're all very familiar with that, and just the final slap that no, that's not it. Up until that point, I'd had the creeps, this slowly growing sense of dread. Possibly the most horrifying moment for me up until that point is the moment where the character, sorry I forget his name, is looking down. He's on a bench and looking down, and a pair of feet just enter his eye line, and it's a girl standing in front of him. And I think, if memory serves, he's psychic, and it's either Sadako or it's one of the Sadako's victims, and she's trying to engage him in conversation, and he doesn't want to look up at her. This invasion of the spirit world into the real world, and this cross section of it where you're at real danger, you're in real peril. That really got under my skin. So then the moment when the spirit world properly smashes through into the real world and Sadako climbs out of the television screen was just such a moment of uncanny, I think Freud would call it the unheimlich, the uncanny, and it was done in such a lo-fi way. She just crawls out of the freaking television screen. In this, they put static all over her, and she's standing here, and then she statics, and suddenly she's here. I really didn't appreciate the bells and whistles put on Samara. Sadako just crawls out of the television screen. She sort of pauses at the screen, and then her head comes through and the hair, and she drags the rest of herself out. One of the few times ever watching horror that I've sort of physically and intellectually recoiled. It truly scared me on a deeply instinctual level. And then when you finally see the eye, oh my goodness, what a coup de théâtre with such lo-fi tools to pull off such a spectacular representation of something so uncanny, wrong, weird, not right. It almost goes beyond language. The final reveal, and then after that, just such a dreadfully desolate ending where the grandparents have to be sacrificed for the sake of the child, and then it just ends, and it leaves you with all of these things in your head. That film, the first time I saw Ringu, and then the film acts like the virus. You go out and you tell people, have you seen this? You have to see this film. I was so much more wrapped up and involved in the experience of hearing about it, obtaining it, watching it, and then spreading it myself. This so rarely happens. It was one of the true perfect moments of horror in the whole of my life, watching, enjoying, and loving horror. So that's the first. I've yammered on for so long. I wanted these to be short videos, but that's the first in what's going to be an occasional ongoing series where I talk specifically about the films that scared me.